The grand lobby of the Royal Crest Hotel shimmered under crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors reflecting the hurried footsteps of staff in crisp uniforms, none of whom noticed the woman in the understated jeans and hoodie walking toward the front desk. Her posture relaxed, but her sharp eyes cataloging every detail. The concierge ignoring a black family's questions. The security guard trailing a young Latino man for no reason. The way the receptionist's smile dropped when she approached. Name? The receptionist, Lisa, her name tag read, asked without looking up, acrylic nails clacking against her keyboard. Danielle Carter, the woman replied, sliding her ID across the counter. Lisa's gaze flicked from the ID to Danielle's face, then down to her worn sneakers, her lips pursed. "There's no reservation under that name," she said, voice dripping with faux sympathy.
A shout erupted from across the lobby.
"You sure
the
you
same
didn't
security
book
guard who'd been
somewhere
shadowing the Latino man now storming
cheaper?"
toward Danielle, hand
A
on his
beat of
belt.
silence.
"Ma'am, we've had complaints about you loitering,"
Danielle's
he
jaw
barked.
tightened,
Danielle blinked.
but she kept
"I just
her
checked
tone
in."
light.
The guard, Officer
"Try
Reynolds, his
again.
badge red, stepped closer,
Suite
his bulk crowding her
1200
against the desk.
booked for the
"Show me
week."
your key." She held it up, but he
Lisa
snatched it,
sighed
inspecting it like counterfeit
dramatically,
cash.
typing
"This
with
is a penthouse
one
key,"
finger
he
before
scoffed.
feigning
"Where'd you really get it?"
surprise.
Behind him, Lisa
"Oh,
smirked, whispering to
here
a
it
coworker.
is.
"Probably stole
Must
it."
have been
Danielle's
a
pulse roared in her
system
ears,
error.
but her voice stayed ice cold.
She slid a
"Call your
key
general
card
manager."
across the
"Now."
counter,
Reynolds
already
snorted.
turning to
"The GM
next
doesn't deal with
guest.
trespassers."
Until
He grabbed her
Danielle
arm.
didn't
He was
move.
touching her, and the world narrowed to that
Problem.
point of contact, her seal
Lisa
instincts warring with the
snapped.
visceral sting of humiliation.
"Yeah,"
"You're
Danielle
removing me,"
said
she said slowly,
softly,
"from a
pocketing
hotel I
the
own?"
key.
Lisa burst out laughing. "Sure,
System
sweetheart.
errors
And I'm the Queen
seem
of
to
England."
only happen
Reynolds
to
yanked
people
Danielle
who
toward the
look
exit,
like
her
me.
sneakers scraping marble as
Lisa's
guests gasped,
laugh was
phones rising to
brittle.
record. God, this would be
"Honey,
viral
if
by
you
noon,
can't
but she didn't
handle
resist.
luxury
Not yet.
service, maybe."
The automatic doors hissed
She
open,
never
the humid
finished.
Miami air slapping her face as Reynolds shoved her outside. "Stay gone," he growled. Danielle stared at him, then at Lisa watching from the lobby, grinning. 9 minutes. That's all it took. 9 minutes for a black SUV to screech to the curb, for the hotel's regional manager James to stumble out, face ashen. "Miss Carter," he choked. Danielle didn't look at him, her eyes locked on Reynolds, whose grip had gone slack. "You're her," he whispered. She stepped forward, and this time he backed up. "Let's try this again," she said, striding past him into the lobby, where Lisa's smile had melted into horror. "I'm Danielle Carter, CEO of Elite Grand Hotels. Which means this." She snatched a guest champagne flute from a passing tray. "Toast and G. The room is my lobby. My chandeliers. And your last day of employment." James scrambled after her. "Miss Carter, surely we can fire them," she said, and the lobby erupted, staff begging, Lisa sobbing, Reynolds lunging forward. "You can't do this." Until Danielle turned, silencing them with a look. "You assumed," she said, quiet enough that phones strained to hear, "that I didn't belong here. That was poor. Leaf. But the only crime today." She set the flute down untouched. "You failed at the one job this industry has, making people feel welcome." HR arrived in minutes, termination papers in hand, and as the staff were marched out, Lisa screaming, "You'll regret this." Danielle addressed the remaining employees. "This hotel? Here's now. Prove you deserve it." By sunset, the story was trending, the fired staff's apologies flooding social media. "We didn't know." But Danielle was already in Suite 1200, staring at the city lights, her reflection in the glass a ghost of the girl who'd once cleaned these very rooms. Some mistakes, she thought, clicking off the news cost everything. The polished marble lobby hummed with the quiet chatter of wealthy guests when the woman in the nondescript hoodie and worn sneakers was abruptly intercepted by a broad-shouldered security guard whose practiced smile didn't reach his eyes as he stepped directly into her path with an exaggeratedly polite, "Excuse me, ma'am, this is a private area. Are you a guest here?" Her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around the platinum keycard she produced with calm precision, the sweet number glinting under the chandelier lights as she affirmed, "Yes, I just checked in." But his responding smirk carried years of unearned superiority as he leaned in with mint-laced breath to declare, "We've had issues with unauthorized people wandering where they don't belong." The pause before unauthorized, heavy with unspoken prejudice, his gloved hand already gesturing toward the entrance as the clicking stilettos of the front desk manager approached her. "Saccharine, we do need to confirm your reservation. This hotel is for elite guests only," dripping with condescension as she emphasized elite, while visually dissecting the woman's casual attire, prompting a steel-edged "Call your general manager now" that made nearby guests glance up from their cocktails, only for the manager to roll her eyes with a dismissive, "Honey, the GM doesn't have time for this," before nodding to security, the guard's meaty hand closing around the woman's elbow with unnecessary force as he marched her past gawking bellhops and wide-eyed guests through the hissing automatic doors into the humid afternoon where she stood motionless on the sidewalk for exactly 9 minutes until a black SUV screeched to the curb, and a panicked executive stumbled out stammering apologies. As she strode back through the now-parting doors into the suddenly silent lobby where every staff member's face drained of color when the regional manager choked out her title, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade as she declared her ownership of the entire establishment, the subsequent terminations carried out with brutal efficiency as former employees begged and sobbed while the remaining staff stood shell-shocked, realizing too late how catastrophically they'd misjudged the woman in the hoodie who now controlled their futures with a single lifted finger. The sleek black SUV hadn't even come to a complete stop when the passenger door flew open and James, the regional manager whose custom Italian loafers normally never moved faster than a confident strut, nearly tripped over himself scrambling onto the curb, his usually immaculate silver hair now disheveled, his Armani tie crooked, his face the color of spoiled milk as his trembling hands adjusted his glasses like he couldn't believe the scene before him. Danielle Carter, the legendary CEO of their entire hotel chain, standing casually on the sidewalk in that damn hoodie, her arms crossed, one eyebrow slightly raised as she watched him hyperventilate, his "Ms. Carter" coming out 3 octaves higher than normal as he practically bowed at the waist. I had no idea you were coming." Inside the lobby, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, every staff member turned to stone, Lisa's perfectly manicured fingers dropping the guest's credit card she'd been holding, the security guard's walkie-talkie slipping from his belt to crack loudly against the marble floor, the bartender's martini shaker overflowing as all movement ceased. Danielle didn't rush, didn't raise her voice, just took her time walking back through those automatic doors that had rejected her 9 minutes earlier, her sneakers making no sound on the polished floor as every employee's pupils dilated with primal fear, her hand moving with deliberate slowness to pull the platinum CEO badge from her back pocket, the engraved Danielle Carter, Chief Executive Officer, catching the chandelier light like a flashing warning signal as she held it up without fanfare, her voice calm but carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent lobby. "That's right." Letting the words land like bricks. "I'm Danielle Carter." A pause so heavy the air itself seemed to thicken. "The woman you just threw out?" Another calculated beat as Lisa's hand flew to her mouth, the security guard actually taking an involuntary step backward. "I own this hotel." The silence that followed wasn't just absence of sound but a vacuum that sucked all the oxygen from the room, every staff member's face cycling through identical stages of shock, denial, and abject terror in the span of 3 heartbeats before the dam broke. Lisa's choked, "Oh my God," triggering a chain reaction of gasps, the receptionist's knees buckling so hard she had to grab the desk, the sous chef emerging from the kitchen wiping his hands only to freeze like a deer in headlights, the concierge's stack of brochures spilling across the floor in a fluttering cascade as the reality of their catastrophic mistake hit with the force of a freight train. James still bent halfway in his apologetic bow, sweat visibly dripping down his temples as Danielle finally moved again, her first step forward sending a visible ripple through the staff like frightened prey animals. The power dynamic so thoroughly reversed that even the guests in the lobby instinctively pressed back into their chairs, their cocktails forgotten, every phone in the room secretly recording as the humiliated employees braced for the inevitable fallout. The security guard's Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard, Lisa's perfect blonde updo now fraying at the temples, James still stammering half-formed apologies that died in his throat. The entire luxurious lobby transformed into a courtroom where Danielle Carter was judge, jury, and executioner, her calm demeanor somehow more terrifying than any outburst could have been, the weight of her quiet authority pressing down on them all as they waited for the axe to fall. The lobby's crystal chandeliers trembled as Danielle's voice, quiet as a razor slicing silk, cut through the thick silence. "Lisa," the name dropping like a guillotine blade, making the front desk manager flinch as if struck. "You looked at my skin, my clothes, and decided I didn't belong," each word meticulously measured, her calmness more terrifying than any scream as she pivoted toward the security guard now shrinking behind a potted palm. "And you," the slightest pause making his breath hitch. Audibly, "put hands on a guest without evidence, without dignity," her gaze sweeping across the frozen staff, their designer uniforms suddenly feeling like cheap costumes. "Not one of you questioned this." The regional manager James stood paralyzed, his tailored suit now a wrinkled mess as Danielle's finger tapped once, just once, against her phone screen before declaring to the entire atrium, "HR's drafting termination papers as we speak." The collective gasp sucking all air from the room, Lisa's perfectly contoured face cracking like porcelain as she shrieked, "You can't." Only for Danielle's smile, cold as a bank vault door swinging shut, to silence her mid-scream, "Watch me." 15 minutes later, the lobby became a theater of humiliation. Lisa staggering out with a cardboard box spilling designer pens and framed desk photos, her tear-streaked mascara creating Rorschach blots down her blouse. The security guard's epaulets ripped from his uniform shirt as he shoved past paparazzi already live-streaming his walk of shame. A junior bellhop vomiting into a $10,000 ornamental vase, all while Danielle observed from the mezzanine, sipping sparkling water from crystal glass. The hotel's new staff moving with military precision around her, their eyes screaming silent promises. "Never again. Never us." The automatic doors hissed shut behind the last terminated employee, Lisa's tear-streaked face flashing one final glare through the glass, before Danielle turned to the remaining staff, their postures rigid with nervous energy, their eyes darting between each other like startled birds as she stepped onto the lobby's grand staircase, the chandelier casting her shadow long and imposing across their faces. "Let this be a lesson," her voice carried without amplification, every syllable crisp as shattered ice. "A hotel is nothing, nothing without respect." Her fingers tightening around the railing as she leaned forward, the weight of her gaze making the newest housekeeper grip her cleaning cart for support. "If I, your Sue, can be treated like a criminal in my own property," a pause so sharp it could draw blood. Imagine what our guests endure when we're not watching. The air thickened with the unspoken stories of Black families questioned at the pool, LGBTQ+ couples denied adjoining rooms, service workers sneered at, until Danielle's phone chimed once, the screen lighting up with a CNN alert already blaring, "Hugh fires staff after racial profiling incident." Before she silenced it with a tap and continued, "Effective immediately. Mandatory bias training starts at 6 a.m. tomorrow." The groan from the kitchen staff dying instantly under her glare. "And let me be absolutely clear," her knuckles whitening, "this is a zero-tolerance house now. *1 prejudiced comment, one sideways glance, one mistake, like what happened today," her eyes locking onto a concierge who'd earlier laughed at Lisa's jokes. "And you'll join them." A jerk of her chin toward the paparazzi still filming the fired employees sobbing into Ubers outside. By midnight, #Royal Crest Reckoning was trending globally. TikTok edits of security footage juxtaposing Danielle's calm with Lisa's meltdown racking up millions of views. MSNBC panels debating workplace accountability culture. While inside Suite 1200, Danielle scrolled past a viral tweet. "Black excellence isn't just winning. It's making them regret ever doubting you, *" before shutting the blinds on the flashing news cameras below, the hotel's new staff moving through the halls with renewed precision, their voices hushed but their spines straight, the lesson seared into their bones. "Underestimate no one. The person you dismissed today might own the building tomorrow." This wasn't just about firing staff, it was about sending a message loud and clear. Judge people by their character, not their skin color. Underestimate someone based on appearances and you will regret it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you stand with Danielle, and subscribe for more stories where the underdog wins. Because in this world, respect isn't given. It's demanded. See you in the next video.